The people I trusted the most, my own parents, decided my happiness, my peace, and even my inheritance didn't matter. They made plans for my life without asking me, without caring what it would cost me. The house my grandmother left me, the one place that kept her memory alive, became nothing more than a tool in their eyes. To them, I was secondary, a problem to be moved aside so my younger brother could have what he wanted. That was the moment everything changed for me. I realized they had crossed a line that could never be erased. I could let them take what was mine and stay silent, or I could fight back in my own way. What I chose set off a chain of events that no one in my family expected. A decision that would turn betrayal into a lesson they would never forget. My name is Michael, and to most people, the beach house would have looked like just another piece of property, a place to spend summers, maybe rent out for extra money, nothing more. But to me, it was different. It was more than wood, walls, and windows. It was the last gift my grandmother ever gave me before she passed away. It wasn't just a house. It was a part of her heart, a sanctuary where I felt safe, loved, and understood. My grandmother raised me through the hardest years of my life. When I was a child, my parents were always busy, distracted, or too focused on my younger brother to notice me. They weren't cruel, but I was invisible to them most of the time. It was my grandmother who saw me, who reminded me that I mattered. She was the one who stayed up with me at night when I couldn't sleep, who listened when no one else had the patience, who told me stories about strength and resilience. When she left me that beach house in her will, it wasn't an accident or a casual decision. It was her way of saying, "Michael, you are important. You deserve something of your own." Every corner of that house carried her memory. The kitchen still smelled faintly of the recipes she used to cook. The porch was where we sat during sunsets, wrapped in blankets, talking about life. Even the old creaky staircase reminded me of her laughter echoing through the hall. It was the only place where I felt complete peace, and that is why, when my parents told me it was time to let it go, I felt a pain I can't fully explain. They didn't see the house as a legacy. To them, it wasn't about healing or memory. It was an opportunity. Everything changed the day my younger brother announced that his girlfriend was pregnant. You would have thought he had won the lottery. The way my parents reacted, they lit up with pride and panic all at once. Suddenly, their entire world revolved around him and his future child. Their conversations became all about responsibility and starting a family, and how we all needed to support him. At first, I thought they were just excited, and maybe a little overwhelmed. But then the conversations shifted. My parents started talking about money, about how expensive raising a baby would be, how my brother needed stability, how he and his girlfriend deserved a proper start. And then came the part that shook me to my core. They decided the solution was my beach house. Yes, my house. The one thing my grandmother had left me, the one place that grounded me, the one inheritance that had nothing to do with them. My parents looked me straight in the eye and told me to sell it. "Michael," my father said firmly, "your brother needs the money more than you need some vacation spot." My mother nodded, adding softly but sharply, "Don't be selfish. Ryan has a baby on the way. You'll understand one day when you have children." Those words hit me like a knife. They didn't see me. They didn't hear me. In their minds, I didn't matter. Not compared to Ryan, not compared to a baby who wasn't even born yet. To them, my memories, my peace, and my grandmother's love could all be reduced to dollar signs. I tried to explain. I told them it wasn't just a house, that it was all I had left of her. I told them it was sacred to me, that selling it would feel like betraying everything she stood for. But my words bounced off them like I was speaking another language. To them, I wasn't making sense. To them, I was being dramatic. To them, I was just the older son who could be pushed aside again, so their golden boy could shine. And that was the moment I understood something painful but freeing. If I didn't act for myself, no one else ever would. If I didn't protect what was mine, they would take it away without a second thought. My parents had drawn their line in the sand. They had chosen sides, and they made it very clear that I wasn't the one who mattered. That night, I sat alone on the porch of the beach house, staring out at the endless waves. The ocean roared with a kind of power that matched the storm inside me. I could almost hear my grandmother's voice, reminding me of all the times she told me to stand tall, to never let anyone make me feel small. I clenched my fists, and for the first time in years, I felt a kind of clarity. They wanted to take my house? Fine, but I wouldn't let them. Not like that. Not on their terms. If my parents thought they could control me, If they thought they could strip me of the only thing that truly belonged to me, then they were about to see a side of me they had never seen before. And that was the night the decision was made. Quietly, without a word to anyone, I began planning my next move. At first, I tried to reason with them. I sat down with my parents at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten countless family meals, and I poured my heart out. I told them what the house meant to me. I explained that it wasn't just a property I could buy and sell like a stock. It was a piece of my grandmother, her memory, her love, her belief in me. I told them I couldn't let it go because it was all I had left of her, but they didn't hear me. Or maybe they just didn't want to. My father leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his face set in that cold expression I knew too well. "Michael, stop being selfish," he said flatly. "This isn't about you. This is about family. Your brother needs this. His child needs this. You're single. You don't have a wife or kids. Why should you hold on to a house you barely use?" My mother nodded along, her voice softer but cutting even deeper. "We're not asking you to give it away for nothing. You'll get money from the sale. But Ryan needs stability. Think about his future, not just your own." Her words twisted like a knife. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about me, about how little they valued my life compared to Ryan's. I wanted to scream, to shout that I had a future too, that I mattered. But when I looked at their faces, I knew it wouldn't change anything. Their minds were already made up. That night I drove to the beach house alone. I needed to breathe, to think, to figure out what to do next. Sitting on the porch, staring at the ocean, my anger began to harden into something sharper: determination. I couldn't let them take this from me. Not this time. For too long I had let my parents decide my worth. I had played the role of the quiet son, the one who stepped aside while Ryan got everything handed to him. But not anymore. I knew I couldn't fight them directly. My parents were stubborn, relentless when they wanted something. If I kept arguing, they would wear me down. Guilt tripped me until I gave in. So I chose a different path. If they wanted to play a game, I would play too, but I would make the rules this time. The plan started small. I began making calls quietly, discreetly. I reached out to real estate agents, explored buyers who might be interested, people who would move quickly and without fuss. Every step I took, I kept to myself. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Ryan. I didn't even tell my closest friends. This wasn't something I could risk leaking. As the days passed, the weight of the secret sat heavy on me, but so did the satisfaction. For once, I wasn't powerless. I wasn't the son waiting for scraps of attention. I was in control. And every time my parents brought up selling the house for Ryan's sake, I smiled to myself, knowing they had no idea what I was really planning. Still, the guilt tried to creep in at night. I'd lie awake wondering if I was crossing a line myself, if I was betraying my family just as they had betrayed me. But then I'd remember my grandmother's face, the way she looked at me with pride, the way she whispered, "Michael, don't ever let anyone make you feel small." And I knew. This wasn't betrayal. This was survival. My parents thought they were forcing my hand. What they didn't realize was that I was already 2 steps ahead. And soon they were going to find out that the house they assumed was theirs to take had already slipped out of their grasp. The day of reckoning came faster than I expected. My parents had decided that the entire family should meet at the beach house that Saturday. They framed it like a celebration, but I knew what it really was: a staged takeover. In their minds, this was the moment the house would officially pass from me to Ryan, their golden child. I arrived early that morning, standing alone on the porch, watching the waves crash against the shore. The salty breeze carried a strange mix of peace and tension. I had already signed the papers days earlier. The deal was done. The house no longer belonged to me. But my parents didn't know that yet, and part of me wondered how they would react when they realized their plan had already collapsed. Around noon, their car pulled into the driveway. My brother Ryan stepped out first, smug as ever, with his girlfriend close behind him. She was already talking about paint colors and nursery themes as if the house was hers. My mother followed, carrying a binder stuffed with papers, no doubt contracts she expected me to sign. My father trailed behind, keys jangling in his hand, like he was already the master of the place. "Michael," my mother said warmly, almost fake, "we're glad you came." Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Ryan and Emily deserve a real home. This is the right thing to do." I stayed silent, letting them walk up the steps, their voices full of excitement and entitlement. My father reached for the front door, confident, ready to open it like it already belonged to them. That's when I spoke. "You can't go inside," I said quietly. They all froze. My father turned, his eyebrows furrowed. "What do you mean we can't go inside? This is still family property." "Not anymore," I said. My voice didn't shake. "I sold it." The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush the air around us. My mother's mouth fell open. Ryan's face turned red, his girlfriend clutching his arm like she needed to hold him back. My father laughed, but it wasn't real. It was the kind of laugh that tried to cover disbelief. "Don't be ridiculous, you wouldn't do that." But before I could answer, a car pulled into the driveway. Out stepped the new owner, a firm handshake ready, papers in hand. He walked straight to me, thanking me for closing the deal so quickly. My parents watched the exchange in stunned horror, their perfect little plan unraveling right before their eyes. Ryan exploded first. "Are you out of your mind? That was supposed to be my house, my family's future." His voice cracked with rage like a child denied a toy. My mother looked like she might cry, whispering, "Michael, how could you?" But I didn't waver. For the first time in my life, I stood taller than all of them. "You crossed a line," I said evenly. "You tried to erase me. You treated me like I didn't matter. This house was mine, and instead of respecting that, you tried to steal it. So I ended the game my way." The shock on their faces was everything I had imagined. They thought I would fold, that I would bend under their pressure like always. But they were wrong. The power they thought they had over me was gone. And in that moment, as the new owner walked past them into the house they had claimed for Ryan, I realized something important. This wasn't just about property anymore. It was about dignity. It was about finally breaking free. The drive home after that day felt like stepping into a different world. My parents didn't speak to me, not a single word. My father gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white, his jaw locked, his silence heavy and punishing. My mother sat rigid in the passenger seat, staring out the window, tears welling in her eyes, though whether they were from disappointment or anger, I couldn't tell. Ryan sat behind me, breathing heavily, muttering curses under his breath. And his girlfriend clung to him like she had been cheated out of her royal palace. But me? I sat there calm, almost relieved. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of being second best. I wasn't trapped in their endless cycle of favoritism. I had taken control. And even though the tension in that car could have been cut with a knife, inside me there was a strange and quiet peace. In the days that followed, the fallout began. My parents called me selfish, reckless, ungrateful. They told anyone who would listen, relatives, friends, even neighbors, that I had betrayed the family. My mother cried on the phone to my aunt, painting me as the villain who destroyed my brother's future. My father lectured me with long emails about family duty and sacrifice. Ryan stopped speaking to me entirely, except for one message that read, "You'll regret this. You ruined everything." But here's the thing, I didn't regret it. Not for 1 second. Because for once I had stood up for myself. For once I had drawn the line and refused to let them cross it. And though the house was no longer mine, though the beach house now belonged to someone else entirely, what I gained was far greater than property. I gained freedom. Still, I won't lie and say it was easy. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I had gone too far. The guilt would creep in, whispering that I had broken my family apart. That maybe I could have handled it differently. That maybe I could have compromised. But then I would close my eyes and remember my grandmother's face, her gentle smile, her voice reminding me I deserved to stand tall. And I would remind myself that this wasn't destruction. This was liberation. One afternoon, weeks later, my mother showed up at my apartment. She didn't call ahead, didn't ask if she could come. She just arrived, her face worn with disappointment. She sat down across from me and said, "Michael, do you realize what you've done? Ryan is furious. Your father is furious. The family is broken because of you." I looked her in the eye and said something I had never said to her before. "No, Mom. The family is broken because you chose to put Ryan above me. Because you made me feel invisible. Because you crossed the line first." She blinked, stunned, like she didn't recognize me. For years, I had been the quiet one, the son who nodded, the son who gave in. But not anymore. She left that day without another word. And though her silence cut deep, it also told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't ready to face the truth. Maybe she never would be. As weeks turned into months, I started to rebuild my life on my own terms. I didn't have the beach house anymore, but I didn't need it. The strength my grandmother gave me wasn't tied to those walls or that porch. It was inside me, waiting for me to finally use it. I began spending more time with people who valued me, who saw me, who didn't treat me like a placeholder in my own family. I focused on my career, on my passions, on the life I wanted to build, and every step I took away from the shadow of my parents' favoritism felt like breathing fresh air after years of suffocation. My family still hasn't forgiven me. Maybe they never will. Holidays are tense, phone calls are rare, and the distance between us grows wider with every passing year. But I've learned to accept that, because sometimes peace doesn't come from fixing the family that broke you. Sometimes peace comes from walking away and choosing yourself, and in the end, that's what I did. I didn't just sell a house, I sold my chains. And though my parents may never understand it, I finally understand myself. Family is supposed to protect you, not strip you of your worth. And sometimes the hardest battles we face are the ones fought inside our own homes. I learned something powerful through this betrayal. Love without respect is manipulation, and loyalty without boundaries is a trap. My parents thought they could decide my life, that they could erase my voice. But standing up for myself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. Because at the end of the day, if you don't defend what matters to you, no one else will. The beach house was more than walls and windows. It was a symbol of love, of memory, of belonging. And though it's gone now, I carry something stronger than bricks or wood, the lesson that I am not disposable, that I have the right to choose. So if you've ever been told your dreams don't matter, or that you're less important than someone else, remember this story. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about refusing to let them destroy you.